Okay, so we got all our bits and pieces in place. My pot has got quite a significant rim on the bottom. So what I am going to do is put it upside down. Okay, so you've got your 7 uprights. What we're going to do is trim off any excess outsidey bits. These ones in your pack are the dry ones. These are the ones that you have not soaked. So we're going to trim them off, and roughly where we want the height to be, we're going to grip the willows into a bunch, and you're going to use one of the skinny rods in your pack. Now insert the skinny rod butt end, so you've got the thicker end, which is the butt end, and then the tip end, this bit here. You're going to insert the butt end and hold it tightly. You are then taking, this is to create the bind, taking the willow around the back, 1, and nice and tightly, 2, 3, 4, will it go a 5th? Yes, 5 times around. The tip then is going to be run up. Sometimes it's easier to just pop the end bud off. You're going to run it up. Sometimes you have to loosen off these a wee bit. Run the tip up through the weave. My willows have fit together so beautifully. There doesn't seem to be a line. It's also got a second bud. There we go. So you run it up through, grab hold of it the other end, and pull. So what you've done is you've woven it down over the top of what we previously had, and you've created a bind. So they are now held together. I'm going to trim off those ends, and at this point you can trim off the tops if you so wish. I'm going to do that now just for ease, so it's not bashing me in the face. Now then, you have got the starts of your structure. This is where the pot comes into play. So what we want to do is, I'm using my pot upside down because it's got quite a big lip on it. If your pot hasn't got such a big lip, you can probably use it the right way up. You want to sort of arrange these evenly around the outside. So some of these, I'm very lucky, will fit into the edges of my pot, and just maybe hold it steady for me while I fold my string in half, create the loop. This just wants to fall one direction, which is basically at you at the camera. I'm going to feed the ends through the loop, just like that, keeping the string down over the pot as low as you can. So this is where it sometimes helps to have a second person just to stabilize it for you. But you're going to tie it relatively tightly around your pot. This is just going to hold your base in place, okay, relatively tightly, and then you can arrange your uprights evenly around your pot. Okay, so they are evenly spaced around the pot. And I think it's just about there. There's no exact sign, but they look roughly even around the pot. Right, now you're going to be working with your thinner rods, and I like to just tidy these up on the ends and give them a nice slipe. Now a slipe is a long cut, which basically affords you a point, and this allows you then to push the willows down into the weave. So I'm just going to cut a random short piece there. All of my pieces that I've got out to work on so far into a slipe. Now, selecting 2 pieces roughly the same length will help you. There are 2 ways of doing this bottom part. The first way is tying them off using a piece of string. The second way is poking them into the base here. I find if you're just starting out, using the piece of string to tie them in place is much better idea. So just cut off a small piece of string. Now your 2 equally sized pieces of willow, we are going to insert it. So we'll call this rod number 1 for the moment. We are going to insert it behind rod 1 in front of rod -1, if you like. It's then going to go in front of rod 1 and behind this one. Now, this creates the crisscross effect here. So you've got a cross effect. So what we're going to be doing is called pairing. Now, to stabilize these, I like to just hold them in place for the moment, put a little bit more through and hold them in place with a small piece of string. Okay, so we'll tie that off here, and it just secures it in place, so you don't have to worry about it popping out in the early stages of your basket weave. Now, so we've got the crisscross, so we've got one that comes out behind, one that comes out in front. We are always going to be working with the one that comes out in front. They are going to swap positions all the way through. So what we are going to do is take it up. The one coming in front of this one comes up behind the next one and back out of the front. It's going to come up. This one is now in front of the next one, so we're going to turn our work ever so slightly. It's going to come up behind the next one and back to the front. Okay, and we're going to keep working like that all the way around. Behind the next one, back to the front. Behind the next one, back to the front. Behind the next one and back to the front. Behind the next one and back into the front. And we're going to keep working around and around. So the bigger your base is, the more times you're going to have to change rods. So we're going to keep working behind. So in front of this one, behind the next one, back to the front. In front of this one, behind the next one, back to the front. In front of this one, behind the next one, back to the front. Now we're starting to run out. We've just got these little bits. In willow weaving, in pairing, we will then choose 2 more similar sized rods, but we've finished on a tip end. So this time round, we start on a tip end. So following the line that has been made by your previous willows, you're going to follow in behind this one, and I try to thread it into the weave a little so it catches. The same with this one, follow the line of the previous one and try to thread it down. It will go. That's just sliding along nicely. Excuse my arm. Down into that weave, but I want it behind the rod. There we go. There we go, down into that weave. And we're going to continue on. So we're going to take the 2 pieces now together until they run out together. So they're working with the one from the front, around the front of that one, around the back of this one, and back to the front. Pulling it down. Around the front of this one, around the back of the next one. So this is where it can get a little bit wiggly woggly, because obviously the weight is in the butt end. Okay, around the back to the front. Front, plane going over, always the way. We'll try and do an outside-in video. Okay, and we just keep pairing all the way along. These two have back and forth at each other, so they're a bit tight to get through. Pushing it down every so often. Again, back round, into behind, around the front, behind the next, pull it down, around the front, behind the next, pulling it down, front, behind, pulling it down, locking that one in place there. Now this one can come behind for this one, but we need to insert yet another rod. So we finished on a butt end this time. So my next two rods that are about the same length. It follows the line again of the original one that comes in, over the top, round, and I'm just going to try and push it into the weave a little bit there. Sometimes you can push them quite a bit down, and that can help with bringing them in. I don't have to bring the second one in just yet because it's not quite there. I've still got a bit of weave to go, so I'm going to bring that one over and down and back over, then in back over. These are starting to be a bit kinky. I haven't entirely soaked these for long enough, I don't think, but hey ho, they are still working today. And now is the time here to insert this one, so it comes under that rod that you've just woven down, and try and again push it into that weave a bit. We can trim those ends off later on. So again, keep going, weaving it around until you've got almost like a little basket on the bottom of your plant support. We're going to just keep going round and round. Creating this little basket at the bottom. Right, I finished on a tip end, and what I like to do at this point then is bring these in, these points. I think I've got enough of a bit of a basket at the bottom of this little one. So this little one I've used 7 uprights, and so far I've used 3 pairs, 6 rods. So what I'm doing here is I am pushing the tips down through the weave and pulling them in nice and tight. Pop up a bit at the back, push them down. Same with this one. I'm going to bring it in the other way, down through the weave. If I can get it to go down through there. Again, sometimes the ends are a bit too bendy. There we go. Pull it out through the bottom and just pull it in nice and tight. Now, what we're going to do is trim off these ends. We're just going to tidy it up, leaving the 2 original ends that are held in by string for a moment. We're going to trim off all the ends nice and flat and in line with the weave. We'll keep turning our work. Well, not an original, no. Just that one comes off. So, now, moment of truth time. I am going to untie this bottom piece, pull out the string. Now, what I like to do, if I can, is to kink the rod So bend the rod with my thumb. So again, I can tuck it up into that weave, and it just holds it a bit more securely. Now, these rods seem to have pulled back a bit. I didn't quite leave enough. So it's always useful when you first start out to actually give yourself 2 or 3 inches of rod to do this with if you wish to. And you get it up into the weave anywhere it fancies going, and it just holds those ends in place. I think that one might be okay. Right, next moment of truth then, releasing it off the pot. So let's release the string. It's held in place now by your weave. It just slips off the pot, and it's going to be very, 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 very wonky. Okay, what we then want to do is work round the bottom. This is where sometimes the loppers can come in handy. And you want to even up your base nicely. So they all want to stand as straight as possible. It's still a little bit big. So with these, as they are the dry ones, they are harder to cut. Right. I'm just going to send it out. Okay. Okay. Ta-da! We've got it stood back up. Right, for the weaving purposes, I am just going to slot it back on my pot just to hold it steady. Okay, so we're now going to work on the upright parts. And what I'm going to do again, prepare my smaller rods by sliping those ends. So these thread in nicely into the weave. Now, we're selecting 2 that are about a similar diameter. Now, you'll notice that either side of the rods you have a gap. And what we are going to do is insert 2 rods into the left-hand gap of one of these, and it's going to go right in. It is going to go right in. One of the rods then comes behind, one of the rods comes in front, and you are going to work again in pairs, one behind, one in front, and then the opposite for the other one. So it goes in front and then behind, crisscrossing in the middle, and then you're going to crisscross them again to the next rod, working up in a sort of diagonal-ish line. Crisscross them again, take the one behind, crisscross them again, take the one behind, shoving it down into the position you want it to be in, bend it to your will. That one's going to go behind, twisting and a turning, that one's going behind, until you get to the top. If your rods don't reach to the top, that's fine, insert new ones. So more tip ends go in part way up. But what we've created there is the starts of the first spiral. I'm leaving those out for the moment. You can then either keep working in pairs up different rods, so come up from this rod and across to create an entire swirl, or you can start using some of the slimmer bits of your willow to bolster this initial one. So I'm going to do the latter. I'm going to come in a different side this time. But what I'm going to do, and there's no hard and fast rules for this at all. You can, I'm going to come in round behind, down through the weave to secure it, because sometimes working is easier. I'm going to thread that through there, and I'm aiming to come back up there. This is where the willow is showing the lack of soaking properly. Because it is kinking beautifully, this particular one, but I'm going to bring it round anyway. Sometimes it'll pull into place. There we go. I'm just going to twizzle it around the structure that I've already put round at different points. So I'm coming up and over and around, up and over and around, and it just adds a little bit of a different feel to that willow. Coming up and around, secures it in place, and where are you two? There we are. All the way around and back out with the others at the top. So we've just given it a little twist around. As you can see, it's split beautifully in places. Let's see if we can find one that is, that's going to work a bit better. You can come in part way up. So let's see, that's going to pinch nicely in there, I think, she says. We'll come in there. We'll come in around the back and then in there. I find it's much easier coming in around the back and working it from there. Right, let's cover up some of this mess I made earlier. By drawing through. There we go. Right, that is kinked and split nicely again. So again, I'm just going to come around and just keep weaving it up to the top and around. And around. Now, these bits up the top, you have two choices with them. Mine has gone slightly off kilter, so what I'm going to do is actually I'm going to snip and remove my initial, just going to trim off my initial bind. Now, if your rods are long enough, and they will fit, put them back into that bind. You can thread them in like we did the initial end. I'm going to take this off and rebind it. It's a good excuse to show you guys the bind again, if I can get this one off. Here it goes, loosening it off just enough. Now, this just needs a recut and I can reuse it. It's already been bent to my will, so I can reuse. Now, I'm going to release it gently and then just make sure I've caught all the ends. So again, butt end, hold it tight, and then I am going to take it around, one, and back down over that butt end. 1, 2, 3, and remembering it won't go as much because we've trimmed off bits. So we're going to go around 3 that time. Thread it up through the middle. That went a lot easier that time as well. Pull it in tight. And rebound with all the ends. Trim off. Trim off. And you have yourself, once you've trimmed off these bottom pieces that we threaded them through, you have your very own garden teepee.